All right, back on the Young Turks, or welcome to the Young Turks. I'm back on the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Kasparian with you guys. Lots of great programming for you today. Man, is this a news day? Hell of a news day.
It's a big day.
A big day. Trial heads over to the Senate. We've got important updates on that. Will there be witnesses? It looks like it, but we're not positive. Will there be drums? That's guaranteed. Okay, some Republicans breaking for McConnell. Oh yes, so that's really good news. Boy, do we have salty campaign news for you guys. Lots and lots of salt today. Bernie, Biden, Hillary, all my rowdy friends are here tonight. So lots of news, let's get to it.
All right. A new Hillary Clinton docuseries on Hulu reminds Americans why she continues to be such a polarizing political figure. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter to accompany the information or the news of this docuseries, Hillary Clinton took several jabs at Bernie Sanders. Of course,
really?
This is what you can expect. Now, this is something that I knew was eventually gonna happen, and she is now even more aggressive than she was previously when it comes to these jabs at Bernie. So let me tell you exactly what's going on. Now, Lacey Rose over at The Hollywood Reporter wrote, in the doc, you're brutally honest with Sanders. And then she quotes Hillary Clinton as saying, he was in Congress for years. He had one senator support him. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He's got nothing done. He was a career politician. Weird flex there. It's all just baloney. And I feel so bad that people got sucked into it. And then the reporter asks, that assessment still hold? And here's what she says. Yes, it does. I just want to remind you of what 538 published in March of 2016. Just a quick screenshot of an important headline. Americans' distaste for both Trump and Clinton is record-breaking. Yeah. So after the election, if you guys can recall, there was a poll indicating that Bernie Sanders was the most popular politician in America, the most liked. And there's a reason for that. It's because he actually focused on issues that matter to them.
Yeah, so there is a part of her statement that's right though. Oh, that's interesting. Well, when she says nobody likes him, nobody wants to work with him, understand who she's referring to. Now, why would you work with Bernie Sanders? You know, if you're a dentist or an accountant out there, I mean, you don't have much of an opportunity. No, she's not referring to you. She's referring to people in Washington, people with power, and that is true. The people in power don't like Bernie Sanders because he points out their corruption. In fact, he barely points it out, but he does. He embarrasses them by not taking any of the corporate money that they do. He talks about income inequality. Their donors love income inequality and further income inequality, and so do those corrupt Democratic politicians. So when she said nobody likes him, she means nobody in Washington, nobody in the club likes Bernie Sanders. Now, that is not a problem for Bernie Sanders. That's why Bernie Sanders is so popular in the rest of the country. Another thing that Hillary Clinton's doing is calling all of you guys nobodies.
Exactly.
I mean, the reality is he's the most popular politician, first of all, in the country, second of all, in the Democratic Party. So she's just telling all the Democratic voters, you don't mean anything, you're a nobody. So you don't even exist. So when I talk about Bernie Sanders and no one liking him, you don't count. The huge percentage of the American population doesn't count. The only people who count are my buddies in power in Washington. All of you nobodies can go away. Well, I am a nobody and I'm proud to support Bernie Sanders.
What she doesn't realize, and this is a good thing, is that she unwittingly put out the best possible endorsement for him, right? Because in saying that nobody in the elitist class that she rubs elbows with, none of them like him. She's essentially giving everyone who already supports him or is considering supporting him more of a reason to stick by his side. Because what people are frustrated with, and one of the reasons why so many people actually went out and voted for Donald Trump, a con artist, is because he positioned himself as an outsider, someone who was anti-establishment. In saying that Bernie Sanders is not well liked within the establishment, Hillary Clinton is weirdly helping to garner support for him.
But they don't think so. Everybody in the media, instead of saying, whoa, that is so divisive. Whenever a progressive speaks out against another Democrat, they're like, divisive, what happened? Now Hillary Clinton tries to torpedo the leading Democrat in the race. He's leading in Iowa, New Hampshire, California, and very close to Nevada. All of a sudden, she's not divisive. Now remember, her supporters back in 2008 when she lost to Barack Obama were called Pumas. Why? It stood for Party Unity My Ass. So she's back to Party Unity My Ass, but no one in the media calls her out. Instead, they're like, bravo, we all agree. No one in power, including us, like him.
I mean, the New York Times editorial board, a story we'll get to later, referred to Bernie Sanders as divisive at least twice in their endorsement for two candidates, Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar. Again, we'll get to that later. But let me give you more from this interview with The Hollywood Reporter. Now, Bernie Sanders did respond to Hillary Clinton saying that he is not well liked. And according to an NBC reporter, I just asked Senator Sanders for his reaction to Hillary Clinton saying no one likes him, and he said, quote, "On a good day, my wife likes me, so let's clear the air on that one." He then pivoted to talking about impeachment. More tonight on NBC Nightly News. Okay, so you get a sense of him kind of poking fun at this. He's not taking it too seriously. Lacey Rose then asks Hillary Clinton, if he gets the nomination, will you endorse and campaign for him? And here's what she says, and I think this is incredibly important given the pressure from the establishment to vote blue no matter what, right? You gotta get Trump out. I'm not going to go there yet. We're still in a very vigorous primary season. I will say, however, that it's not only him, it's the culture around him. It's his leadership team, it's his prominent supporters, it's his online Bernie bros and their relentless attacks on lots of his competitors, particularly the women. So Cenk, I'm gonna let you jump in a second, but I wanna make a point about who Hillary Clinton is and how she campaigned. Because when she was campaigning against Barack Obama in 2008, she kept referring to him, her campaign kept referring to him and his supporters as sexist. It's sexist, it's sexist, okay? So before the Bernie bro argument was being used by the Hillary camp, there was an Obama bro argument used by the Hillary camp. In fact, Hillary Clinton was so vicious in her campaigning against Barack Obama that this is what she did. I talked about this on a recent appearance on Cuomo. There's a lot of emphasis, a lot of, in my opinion, defamatory comments about how Bernie Sanders is allegedly running a dirty campaign. However, there isn't a single example of him talking about someone's character in a negative way or attacking someone's personality or doing any type of character assassination. All of his emphasis has been on policy, and we are in the middle of a primary. In a primary, you are supposed to emphasize the differences in policy proposals. And the mere fact that he has done that has gotten him in trouble for some reason, when in the past, actual dirty politics on the left have been dismissed.
Stop.
I mean,
Stop,
come
Anna.
on. Hillary Clinton released a picture of Barack Obama in 2008 where he's wearing a turban, and it was during his trip to Kenya. She purposely did that in an effort to paint him as a Muslim.
Bernie Sanders?
I bring that up because Bernie Sanders would never, ever do something like that, but he still gets characterized as someone who plays dirty politics. It's disgusting.
Okay, we actually have that picture. We're gonna show it to you. So Hillary's team, people later thought that the Republicans released this. No, Hillary Clinton's team released this photo like, look at Barack Hussein Obama. That's the kind of dirty politics the establishment plays. By the way, it was worse than Obama bros. Bernie bros is alliterative. No, back then they didn't call them bros. They called them Obama boys, which is way worse. Okay, so she's played that dirty trick 1,000 times, including on Barack Obama, who she now pretends to support, but she tried to torpedo in vicious ways. So now, before we even get to the gender angle, wait. You're not gonna go there yet on supporting Bernie Sanders if he's the nominee? So that means, by definition, you might not. So who would you support? Donald Trump? That's an open question for you?
Of course it is.
That's unbelievable. After all this, it's still unbelievable. But hold on, she not only says that, but I want you to remember the context. Bernie Sanders did 39 rallies for her after he lost. 39. She had done 12 appearances for Obama. Sanders did 39 gigantic rallies for Hillary Clinton. But no good deed goes unpunished. Now she turns around and goes, oh, I demanded loyalty from you. And by the way, you gave it to me. And you took some heat for it too, by the way, from some progressives. Now, they will not be returned at all. In fact, at the most crucial time, right before Iowa, I will try to sink you.
Well, Cenk, look, I think that you're either forgetting something or you're being dishonest here. Because you're not surprised by this. In fact, and I know you're gonna love this, you made a prediction back in March of last year. And I wanna show you that prediction.
Okay, look, it's always, you're right that I have said things like this in the past, and I don't remember this clip at all that we were about to show you. Okay, but after all that they have said about unity, after all that they have said, Bernie, and the media has asked them every single time, if you lose, are you going to make sure that you support the candidate, right? But they never ask the others. Finally, Hillary Clinton gets asked, and it's I don't know, maybe not though, maybe not. Maybe I support Trump.
Well, here's Cenk from March of 2019 talking about what is likely to happen if Bernie Sanders were to be the nominee.
They would rather have a Republican in office and continue the corruption than to have Bernie Sanders or a progressive in office where they would end the power of money in politics. I guarantee you a lot of the establishment is gonna pull up stakes and do the most hypocritical thing you have ever seen in your life. Support a third party candidate, or maybe even secretly not support Donald Trump, but pull out of the race and go, well, Donald Trump did give me tax cuts. We'll be okay, we survived the last 4 years. We might not survive Bernie. By that they mean my money might not survive Bernie. So they are very likely to betray the Democratic Party. The thing that they claim that they cared about all the time. One last thing about that. You remember what Hillary Clinton supporters called themselves after they lost the primary to Obama? They called themselves Puma. You know what Puma stands for? Party unity, my ass. They never believed in party unity.
Boom.
You're right, you caught me, I was right. So look, and I wanna now predict this for you. If Bernie's the nominee, they're not going to outwardly say they're in favor of Donald Trump. It would be so preposterous and people would be so mad with them. Have you ever talked to any Democratic voters? They despise Donald Trump, right? If Hillary Clinton were to say, yeah, I'm for Trump, heads would explode, and she's not that stupid, and people in the establishment are not that stupid. But look, she's already prefacing for you that, hey, maybe I'll stay out of it. Maybe I'll stay neutral between Trump and Bernie Sanders. Or maybe I'll look to torpedo Bernie Sanders, but not say it publicly, right? And by the way, if Bloomberg runs, easily help him and make sure the Democrat loses the race so I keep my tax cuts. Look, the establishment is filled to the rim with corruption. And so this is just another evidence of it. Now, to the gender issue, she says, he particularly attacks women. Later, she talks about how he attacks Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. I don't remember Bernie Sanders saying anything about Kamala Harris.
Yeah, neither do I.
That's just totally made up.
Well, but that's the thing. She gets to make these things up and she goes unchallenged. I mean, we challenge her, independent media sources challenge her, but the corporate press that she speaks to never challenges her. In fact, this whole docuseries that they're putting out about her doesn't even go so far as to interview people that she's slandering in the context of these interviews, right? Monica Lewinsky, Bernie Sanders camp. I mean, she just like throws all these jabs and it goes unchallenged 100%.
In fact, they asked the documentarians about it. They're like, no, we did try to talk to Hillary Clinton's opponents ideologically, so we try to find conservatives. Wait, what are you doing? No, the main divide has been within the Democratic Party, and the main people she attacks is not Republicans. Other than Trump, she never talks ill of Republicans. In fact, there's a quote later in the story. She's like, well, if it wasn't Trump, and it was just a normal Republican, I'd have been fine with it. I'll give you the exact quote in a minute, okay? So, no, progressives are the ones she attacks and smears and says all sorts of terrible things about. But to the mainstream media, progressives are invisible. Why would I talk to a progressive? They're not among the powerful. They're not in the club. They're invisible. They're nobodies. Why would you ever talk to a progressive? It doesn't even occur to them. So even as they're punching progressives in the face over and over again in the documentary, in this interview, it doesn't occur to them to talk to a progressive and say, hey, how do you feel about being punched in the face? All right, last thing on the Kamala Harris, Warren, et cetera. So to my knowledge, Bernie Sanders never attacked Kamala Harris, nor have his supporters really talked about her much at all. I don't know if you know this, she's out of the race. Hillary Clinton just did this interview. But Bernie Sanders is so-called troubled today because they say, oh, you're attacking Joe Biden too much. So what happened to particularly pointing out women? So it turns out they're in a primary and they have made arguments against some of the candidates, some of whom are male, some of whom are female. So
look, let's just keep it real. Here's what they want. They want Bernie Sanders to unilaterally disarm in this race, right? They want Bernie Sanders to avoid criticizing, rightfully so, the candidates that he's running against. He has, I mean, look, and I keep telling some of the Hillary fans out there who keep attacking him as divisive and he plays dirty politics. Give me an example. I am more than willing to admit I'm wrong. Show me an example of Bernie Sanders unfairly attacking his opponents on anything that's not related to policy. Because look, we're in a primary. He absolutely should and should continue to go after the records of these Democrats, their policy proposals. That's what the whole point of a primary is. Otherwise, why are we having debates? Why are we even having this discussion, right? But they don't like the fact that he's right, that he's uncorrupted, that he walks the walk, talks the talk, and that he focuses on what he legitimately should focus on, which is policy.
There's no end to their hypocrisy. Later in the interview, she said, you're probably not going to be treated fairly. Don't let it knock you off your stride. Now, she was just referring specifically to women there, but she mainly talked about herself. Oh, I was just treated so unfairly, so unfairly. Okay, now, there's actually some truth to that. I thought that they focused way too much on the emails. The mainstream media goes along with the Republican talking points on nonsense about Benghazi, et cetera. And so there were some unfair attacks against Hillary Clinton, that is true. Were there some sex attacks on Hillary Clinton from Republicans? Absolutely. What's she wearing? Is she too shrill? All that stuff, that happened. Did it happen from the left? Of course not. The left is more liberal, more progressive than the centrist corporate Democrats. But wait, you were talking about people who were treated unfairly in the primaries. Didn't you rig the primaries? Didn't you take stolen questions from Donna Brazile before a CNN debate? Didn't you limit the number of debates with your friend Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Didn't you run a money laundering operation through the DNC?
This is unfair. Okay. You're being so divisive, Jim. Yeah, well, you're being so sexist and divisive by stating what the DNC literally did in 2016.
But you were treated unfairly. Okay, so, and by the way, when they hide behind discrimination, after they do attack after attack after attack, and if you ever criticize them, they go, oh, I'm gonna hide behind discrimination. What, you know what they do? They actually hurt the cause of fighting real discrimination so much. Because when a woman is treated unfairly at work, doesn't get paid the same amount, or is, God forbid, sexually harassed, et cetera, then a lot of guys turn around and go, well, okay, well, look at these people, that all these crying wolf. Every time, nobody's allowed to be criticized because they're a woman. Now, that's not remotely true, but Hillary Clinton and others who callously use gender as a political weapon allow that to happen. So wait, did the DNC conspire against a man or a woman? Let's just remember, it was against a man. Did they do it because he is a man? No. But for you to claim, oh my God, I am the victim from the Democratic establishment, is preposterous. So now let me get back to the Republican quote to give you a sense of how Republican Hillary Clinton is. She said, quote, if I had lost to what I would call a normal Republican with whom I disagreed on many things, but who I thought cared about the country and put service over self, I would probably speak out and say we don't agree about that, but this is abnormal what we currently have about Trump, okay? So she still thinks Trump's an aberration. The other Republicans are great. They put service over self? On which planet? Bernie Sanders is a terrible guy, and I'm gonna call him every name in the book. But my beloved Republican friends outside of Donald Trump, wait a minute, what do you mean outside of Donald Trump? They all back Donald Trump 100%. What Republicans are you talking about? If we had had a normal Republican, well, that would have been lovely, right? But Bernie, we can't have him. He might end the corruption, then what would we do for a living?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I wanted to make one final point about the sexism accusations, because I'm not kidding, you should read the full Hollywood Reporter interview with Clinton. In the same interview, she argues that Bernie Sanders lodged a very personal attack against Elizabeth Warren in allegedly saying that a woman can't be president. Now we've adjudicated this, we've talked about it. I don't believe for a second that Bernie Sanders said, I don't believe a woman can be president. But Hillary Clinton, in referencing that, tries to make the case that, like, of course a woman can be president. What's the big deal? He's wrong. He's a terrible person for saying that. Then later in the same interview, she talks about the unfairness that she underwent because she's a woman running for president, right? That sexism was such a huge problem during her candidacy. So look, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't argue that sexism is a huge problem in the country and it forces women to jump through hoops and go through obstacles that male candidates don't have to go through. And then at the same time, argue that what Bernie Sanders allegedly told Warren is completely false and a woman 100% can be president, can be elected president. Like, they make both arguments. Establishment Democrats like herself make that argument and the other argument all in the same interview, and it contradicts what they're saying.
Yeah, well, I've got one last thing for you guys. First of all, look, Hillary Clinton, like everyone else, if you look at the summaries of the documentary and you read the interviews, a complicated person. Is she all bad? Of course not. And so there's a lot of parts of this where I had great sympathy or empathy for her. And so she talks about her marriage and how difficult and complicated it was, but that they've been together for 50 years. And I think, get out of her hair on that, okay? That's not any of our business, that's her business. Where she talks about how there is an unfair standard, again, I totally agree. I agree when the Republicans attack her and the emails, all that stuff. I also agree when they say she should have left Bill Clinton, but then they say Bill Clinton is really popular, but she's unpopular because of that. That is fundamentally unfair to her and all women to have that standard. So she makes those good points if she just left it at that. Look, she makes other good points. She talks about how there are people on the left who donate money, but nobody bought a TV station like Murdoch did with Fox News, spent $500 billion building that up, Sinclair and all these things, and they do propaganda. There's so many good things that Hillary Clinton does talk about and can focus on, but she chooses to focus on attacking progressives again and again and again. And so the final hypocrisy on the Me Too movement and all that is definitely not about Monica Lewinsky. I don't want to get back into that, et cetera. That's their personal lives and long gone. But they asked her about Harvey Weinstein and how she took money from him. And she said, well, how could we have known? This is a quote. He raised money for me, for the Obamas, for Democrats in general. Now, she never apologized. Now, what you could say is, turns out Harvey Weinstein was a monster. I didn't know that. And so I feel bad about it, but I swear I didn't know. You could say a lot of things. Instead, never apologizes. Okay, fine. But then goes and says, the Obamas did it too. It was the Obamas. The Obamas, oh, I love Obama. Bernie is not sufficiently loyal to the Democratic Party. But Weinstein, I got nothing to do with Weinstein, man. You want to talk about Me Too? Are we having a conversation about Me Too? And then you turn around and go, Weinstein, I had to take his money. The Obamas took it too. Obamas took it too. Okay, so, all right. So in other words, if you've got money and you're part of the corruption, well, there was nothing we could have done. Nothing we could have done, okay? But if you're a progressive, they're gonna come for you. And then last thing, guys, they do all of these attacks. And then when people on social media get upset, they're like, oh, look at the Bernie bros online. Look at how angry they are.
Yeah, damn right, damn right. We're online, I'm considered a Bernie bro, and we're angry. Get over it. Log off Twitter, or grow a set of balls and move on with your life, okay? It's a campaign, and if they can't handle us emphasizing policy that makes him a superior candidate, then you're not cut out for politics. Log off.
Not only that, guys.
Jesus Christ.
As you can see from this, we didn't start the fight. And we use social media, they use all of the media. They have all of the mainstream media on their side, and they continually punch us and attack us over and over again.
And we'll punch back.
And when we respond on social media, they're like, how dare you? We own the media. We own all the money. How dare you try to fight back on Twitter? All right, that's it. Defame them again, attack them again, and then cry once they ever respond to our vicious attacks.
You guys can keep crying.
No deal, no deal. You attack us, we attack back.
We got to take a break. When we come back, there's a A story that's frustrating involving Bernie Sanders, and he might be in the wrong here. So we'll give
no,
you
he's not might be, he's definitely wrong.
All right, so we'll give you the details on that and more when we return.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back in the Young Turks, we go to the member section as usual. Daniel says, hey Cenk, hi there, missed you, and I'm very happy to see you back. Thank you, Daniel, appreciate it. By the way, I'll be here on the debate nights and caucuses and primaries, so don't miss any of those. So those are giant events. Obviously don't miss a show any day, but make sure you're not turning to some mainstream media outlet on election days, okay, and on debate days. Come right here. Speaking of which, by the way, let me keep going on the comments first. Weston 614 says, why is she being so divisive? Said no mainstream media figure ever.
Right.
It's true, 100% right. There's so many comments I want to read. Eddie O'Donnell on Twitter says, we're nobodies to Mrs. Clinton. The people she chooses to spend time with don't like Bernie, that's right. Millennial Gandalf says, Cenk's totally right. Clinton's affirmation of that quote betrays the fact that everyone she knows is an elite liberal politician, also true. Gonzo Tokyo says, Hillary just convinced me to donate to Senator Sanders' campaign again.
Same.
Okay, and then last one for his YouTube super chat, James Williams Jr. says, Hillary Clinton has some nerve lying about Bernie's record on women. Like she gives a you know what. Can we talk about Bill Clinton yet and hold her accountable for that environment? But James, don't do that, okay? What Bill Clinton did is on him. It's not on Hillary Clinton. I think that is totally unfair. So got to keep it real. And even when you get angry and frustrated at their attacks against progressives, we got to be better than that. Not fighting back, as you can tell, we fight back vigorously, right? So none of that, if they go low, we go high. No, but at the same time, we always have to be fair because we're progressives and we're the good guys. All right, speaking of the good guys, John Irola on CNN tonight for the first time. So how do you like that, Mapples? It's at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So we do have the clips for you guys later at tyt.com the next day usually, but check it out live. And it affects their ratings too, and they're more likely to have John and others on as well. So John Irola tonight at midnight Eastern on CNN, check it out.
All right, well, one other announcement. As I had mentioned in previous shows, Kasparian, our partner, is doing a really exciting sweepstakes, and we'd like you guys to enter if you're interested in what you could win. And that includes a all-inclusive trip to Los Angeles to have dinner with me, Cenk, and John. So you're gonna be flown out to LA, you're gonna be put up in a nice hotel, and you get to have dinner with us. Now, in order to participate in the sweepstakes, it's a super easy process. Go to tyt.com/dinner-in-LA to register. Now you have to sign up for a free Kasparian spend and save account. And after that, look, this is important. You have to register your eligibility. It isn't enough to just open up an account. You register your eligibility, which means you're entering into the sweepstakes. And then the person who swipes their card the most has the biggest chance of winning the sweepstakes. And then again, you get flown out to LA, you have dinner with us, and you get put up in a nice hotel. Check it out, go to tyt.com/dinner-in-LA.
All right, so it's fun for everybody. I don't know about having dinner with us. I don't know if that's something you're into. I hope so, that's fun. We look forward to it. But you do get flown out to LA, so that's pretty neat. And your Kasparian is really progressive and puts your money in good places. So there's a lot of wins there. But my favorite part, because I hadn't seen the graphics yet, is the picture of the dinner in LA where Anna's front and center and I'm kind of peeking out like, hey, I'm also here.
I didn't even notice that.
Hey, right here.
I think that it accurately depicts what's going on here at TYT these days.
Apparently so, what am I gonna do? Hey, I'm also here, don't forget me.
All right, well, let's get to the rest of the news. Bernie Sanders made the grave mistake of apologizing for simply speaking the truth about Joe Biden. Actually, it's worse than that. One of his biggest supporters, Zefri Teachout, put out an op-ed in The Guardian that draws attention to Joe Biden's corruption and how money in politics swayed Biden's policy positions and votes. And so I'm gonna give you a little bit of what the op-ed said, then we're gonna show you how Bernie Sanders unfortunately apologized on Teach Out's behalf. So in this piece, it's titled "Middle Class Joe Biden Has a Corruption Problem. It Makes Him a Weak Candidate." Biden has a big corruption problem and it makes him a weak candidate. I know it seems crazy, but a lot of the voters we need, independents and people who might stay home, will look at Biden and Trump and say they're all dirty. It looks like middle class Joe has perfected the art of taking big contributions, then representing his corporate donors at the cost of middle and working class Americans. Converting campaign contributions into legislative favors and policy positions isn't being moderate. It is the kind of transactional politics Americans have come to loathe. And one other excerpt that I really want to read to you, Biden's support for finance over working class Americans. His career was bankrolled by the credit card industry. He delivered for it by spearheading a bankruptcy bill that made it harder for Americans to reduce their debts and helped cause the financial crisis. He not only authored and voted for that bill, he split with Barack Obama and led the battle to vote down Democratic amendments. Now, look, Teach Out's argument is easily verifiable. There wasn't anything in there that was slanderous. There wasn't anything in there that was unfair. And I'm gonna provide the proof of that in just a minute. But what really frustrated me, and I think also frustrated you, Cenk, is that Bernie Sanders received so much criticism because one of his supporters spoke the truth about Biden that he was pressured, in my opinion, to apologize. And here's what that apology looked like.
Zephyr is doing a great job for us, and she's a wonderful surrogate. But on this issue, I strongly disagree. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years. He's a very decent guy. And Joe and I have strong disagreements on a number of issues, and we'll argue those disagreements out. But it is absolutely not my view that Joe is corrupt in any way. And I'm sorry that op-ed appeared to.
All right, let me be perfectly clear. Bernie Sanders is 100% wrong. I stand with Zephyr Teach Out. I stand with David Sirota, who tweeted about it. The media is preposterous. Anna's right. There's not one thing in that article that is factually incorrect. Joe Biden has sold out to his donors 1,000 times over. You don't want to call it sold out. You say, okay, that's my opinion. Yeah, I do an opinion show. That is my opinion, but it is verifiable and provable. So did he take money from the credit card industry? Yes, he took millions. Was he known as the senator from MBNA? That was a credit card company back in the day? Yeah, you all know he was known as that. Why do you think he was known as that? And then did he push the bankruptcy bill that the credit card companies wanted passed? Yes. Did it make it harder for average Americans to get rid of their debts? Yes. Did it make it near impossible for students to get rid of their debts? Yes. Those are absolutely true. I guess the mainstream media, number one, they don't want to talk about it because then they would have to talk about the uncomfortable fact that all of their friends that are corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats are frauds and they're corrupt and they're frauds. The media are frauds for never pointing that out. For never having a discussion about the most important issue in American politics. By the way, it also polls at number one. So the voters all want to talk about it. The media never wants to talk about it because they are part of the corruption. That is all true. I guess their thesis is either if you force us to talk about it, we'll yell at you and say, how dare you be right? Apologize, you have done the gravest offense in Washington, which is to be uncivil to someone inside the club. If you're not inside the club, who cares? Yeah. It's harder for you to get rid of your debts now. Who cares? You're an average American. But if you force them to talk about it, then they'll say, no, how dare you? You think the millions that these Democrats take corrupts them? That sounds vile to me. That's what Paul Krugman would say. And that's what the entirety of the media said today. For Bernie to give into it, look, Bernie, I'll be honest with you. So people say, oh, you guys always unquestioningly support Bernie. No, we don't. We support Bernie when he's right, which is most of the time.
And when he's wrong.
And when he's wrong, we call him out. Here I am calling him out. He's 100% wrong on this. Bernie, honestly, I don't give a damn that Joe Biden's your friend. I don't care at all. I think, in fact, that makes you biased. You should be honest about what Joe Biden is. Joe Biden has based his entire career on corruption. Now, not personal corruption like Donald Trump, but systemic corruption that is part of the cancer in this government. So if you're not gonna be honest about it, sorry, I don't agree. You're wrong. Zephyr Teach Out is right.
I agree with you on that. And I think that it's important to share some specific numbers on Joe Biden's campaign in 2020. I didn't even go back to look at the entirety of campaign contributions Biden has received from the financial industry. I only focused on 2020, and the numbers should be concerning for all voters who want proper representation by our executive branch. So 2020 Biden donors, you could look this up yourself, it's on Open Secrets. From Morgan Stanley, he got $47,636. Wells Fargo, nearly $47,000. Blackstone Group, $42,435. JP Morgan Chase & Co., $34,725. Do you think they're giving him tens of thousands of dollars in this election alone so far? I'm sure they'll give more, right? You think they're doing that out of charity or because they want to keep him honest? This isn't keeping him honest. Obviously, he's going to represent the individuals who are giving him all this money in his campaign.
So I want to challenge the rest of the media. Are you guys ever going to do your job?
No, they're not.
So look, no, you have to answer this question. You'll ignore it and you'll say, hey, Cenk, you raised your voice a little bit. And inside the club, we don't do that. We drink tea and we eat crumpets with our buddies. Okay, that's fine, but answer this question for me. Though that money from the banks, is it for charity? Is it for their health? Or is it to influence the politicians? Now, there's no one on planet Earth that can honestly say that it's anything but to influence the politicians. Now, when you try to influence a politician, now, for example, if, and Bill Moyers uses this analogy, if before a batter goes to step up to the plate, he handed the umpire, in this case, $42,000, would anybody think, oh yeah, let the umpire call balls and strikes, I bet he'll be unbiased. At the very minimum, it's a massive appearance of conflict of interest, right? Do you guys ever point that out? No, you never do. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? You would do it in baseball, you'd be outraged, you would ban people for life if they did it in sports.
Right.
But in politics, right before you're about to vote, they hand you $42,000, $47,000, actually millions of dollars. Sheldon Adelson gave $30 million to certain politicians. The NRA gave $30 million to Donald Trump. And that's not bribery? No. When just the mere fact of not pointing out that it's bribery shows that you're part of the corruption. Why are you covering it up?
Okay.
They do the crime and the media does the cover up.
All right, so rapid fire, because there's so many other parts of this story that I think you guys should know about. I gave you the numbers when it came to the banks. Look at the actual industries that contribute to Biden the most. Again, this is for 2020 alone.
Jesus, look at these numbers.
And look at those numbers. Securities and investment, nearly $1 million. Business services, over $670,000. Miscellaneous business, nearly $400,000. Miscellaneous finance, $328,000. Commercial banks, look, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions if you add it all together. That is corruption, guys. It's legalized bribery. It is corruption. And Biden's career is littered with examples of how this corruption has informed and impacted his policy proposals and what he's willing to fight for. In fact, let's go to this video. This is from January of 1995, where he brags about wanting to cut government programs.
When I introduced the budget freeze years ago, the liberals in my party said, it's an awful thing you're doing, Joe. You are all the programs we care about, you're freezing them. Money for the blind, the disabled, education, and so on. And my argument then is one I make now, which is the strongest, most compelling reason to be for this amendment or an amendment. And that is that if we don't do that, all the things I care most about are going to be gone. I mean, whatever happened to that old conservative discipline about paying for what you spend? I'm up for re-election this year, and I'm going to remind everybody what I did at home, which is going to cost me politically. When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
I gotta just say one quick thing. Biden was so aggrieved that the Sanders campaign drew attention to how he has consistently attempted to cut government programs, including Social Security and Medicare, right? Don't be aggrieved at your political opponent drawing attention and emphasizing your mistakes and your flaws in your political career. Be upset at yourself for thinking that it would be okay to do that and get away with it. You're not getting away with it. This is a primary, and for all the elitist losers out there, including Paul Krugman, who refer to individuals as vile for calling out this corruption, just understand that this is what an election is all about, and people are paying attention. They're paying attention to the records, and the establishment media isn't gonna get away with controlling the narrative on it.
So The Intercept did a great article showing that Biden has over and over and over again from 1984 to 2018 called for cutting Social Security. In that clip that you just watched, when he says freeze the spending, that means you don't get your cost of living adjustment. And then he's also talked about cutting raising the retirement age. Those are all ways of cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He just said it. He said he did it 4 different times. By the way, he did it many more times after that speech that you just watched. And what did the media do? Instead of saying, oh wow, that's true, Biden has a record of constantly calling for cuts to Social Security, they said, how dare Bernie Sanders point out that Biden has that record? They pretended that one of the videos was doctored when it was not at all doctored. They said, well, Biden was being sarcastic. No, he wasn't. You can watch the video for yourself. And then why? I've noticed that they've left out sarcasm in other contexts when it comes to progressives, but then they put in sarcasm that didn't exist for Biden and ignored every other video. And his entire legislative record of wanting to cut Social Security. By the way, during the Obama administration, they offered to cut Social Security in the grand bargain. But the media says, no, I will never report the facts to you. Instead, I will yell at Bernie Sanders and say that he's being uncivil by challenging our beloved Joe Biden. And then what does Bernie Sanders do? He goes and enables them by apologizing for Zephyr Teachout being completely factually correct. What are you doing? You think they're your friends? Joe Biden's not your friend. The media's not your friend. Those guys look to undercut you and ruin you at every turn. So I get it. He wants to be Mr. Nice Guy. But by the way, we lost the 2016 primary because he was Mr. Nice Guy. Because he wouldn't say Hillary Clinton is corrupt when she definitely is. She took the same money Biden did. She had the same votes as Biden in the bankruptcy bill. Before she became a senator and started taking money from the banks, she was actually against the proposal. She then takes the money from the banks as a senator, and voila, she's for the proposal and votes with Biden and the banks. But Bernie wouldn't say it, he wouldn't say it. And here he is again, not saying it, in fact, saying the opposite. We are fair on this show and we care about the facts. The rest of the media, on the other hand, all they do is smear, 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 and they never talk about policy, and they hide Biden's record. They are actively hiding his abysmal record, and they know it. They're part and parcel of this corruption.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Tucker Carlson understands the threat of Bernie Sanders to the Republican Party. I wish Democrats realized it. We'll show you what he has to say and more when we return.